Oh,
Oh,
oh.
surprise!
Okay. They're sedating her. They're euthanizing her.
Oh.
Yeesh. Or that works. Open the door. Open the door. Well, close the door. Close the door. Wow. That is so ugly.
Who would come in here?
Don't go near the doors. Just
Little girl, when you see your dad frantically loading a gun, you know it's going to be a special day. Door's not locked, Jimmy. Oh! Oh, fast zombies. Fast zombies. Worst kind.
I also noticed that wasn't a headshot. Still seemed to
No.
work.
where the hell you been?
I have to say one thing. These guys aren't preppers. You see that they left their house to
Without
go
any
to who knows where without a backpack. I mean, basically all they have is a pistol.
It's interesting. He had a pistol in a case, which didn't seem to be locked, but he had extra ammo, and he didn't grab it, at least as far as I saw. But they left the house without anything else. Their home is probably a safer place than anywhere else. Bugging out is for fun. Like, we think about it all the time. It's a fun and exciting thing to do, but in almost every situation, you're better off staying at home.
He said,
That's exactly what would happen. They would try to contain the infection.
It wouldn't happen super quickly, though.
Well, it might be happen quicker than you'd want.
driving. I got a kid, Joel. So do we.
But we have room.
Keep driving, Tommy.
Now, I have to say, Dad was right there. I mean, if those people didn't have food or supplies, they could only make you expend your stuff faster. I mean, they didn't even have a backpack themselves, just what's in their pocket. So you want to be a good person, but when it comes to your family's survival...
Yeah, it's a tough balance, because most disaster situations in real life, you're going to benefit from working together. But in something like this, where it's obviously a doomsday fantasy, you don't know if somebody's infected, you don't know what dangers are posed there. People are going to start to panic.
Societal norms and normal behavior go out the window. That thing is not eating the victim. Is it just passing the fungus? I mean, how does this work?
Right, it goes back to the question, is this airborne? Is it contact? Is it through saliva or blood or body fluids?
There must be a purpose to biting.
Move.
What are they running from?
You notice that everybody's going in the same direction, and they're heading in the opposite direction from where everybody's trying to get away from. They know something we don't.
It's just running over people.
Wrong direction, Tommy. Oh, well, there's that.
Hey,
Injury in a situation like this diminishes your survivability.
And you already have some injuries to take care of. And again, no medical kit or other way to heal things. Oh, hello. Social distancing, please. Oh,
Right.
okay. All right, Uncle Tommy.
There was also a sign in the background that says no parking anytime. The social order has already broken down. In almost every situation, you're better off working together. These people are scattering. If they were just to go inside a building and barricade it, their chances of survival would probably increase.
It's actually difficult to have a gas station explode. Usually you get your raging fire rather than an explosion, because most of the gasoline is actually stored underground, and the pumps make it difficult for fire to actually go down there. Maybe there's a gallon or so of gasoline in the pumps themselves, so fire, yes, kabloom, no.
A couple of civilians on the outer perimeter. Please advise.
Okay, soldiers aren't going to show a lot of compassion when there are fast zombies around, and anyone could be bitten.
Leadership isn't showing compassion either.
Just following orders makes killing people a lot easier.
Thank you, Tommy.
Saved by Uncle Tommy again. All right, Uncle Tommy.
Move your hands, baby. I know, baby, I know.
Okay, that's bad. Ballistic trauma to the abdomen, chest, often lethal. Standard tourniquets work for extremities, not the torso. And simple pressure isn't reliable to stop bleeding in the belly. Sorry to say that I think that Sarah might be toast. Is this the fun part of the game?
Yeah, this is how they get you. Now you have to go and avenge her.
Oh, that was gut-wrenching.
I'm coming.
You know, if a lot of the population is no longer with you, you can find a lot of useful items even after the owners have split. I mean, they can't take everything with them. So there's probably a treasure trove of stuff in every apartment or every house there. There's still a flag, some sort of government, military presence.
Curfew hours, that sign has been there for a while, so it's some established. And a lot of people refer to disaster scenarios as the end of the world as we know it, especially the doomsday type scenarios. And the way I look at that is the world as you know it is your normal life, and anything that disrupts it is the end of that world as you know it. It may return to normal, but there's always a temporary disruption that ends the world as you know it, and it might start again. The dry goods that I store for my family are the basic ingredients. We store the rice and beans. Like freeze-dried foods can last 30 years, but I don't store 30 years worth of freeze-dried food. That would be an incredible amount of food to store. So whatever they had stored is limited, except that initially the population declined rapidly. So resources, anything that was shelf-stable, be stretched further.
We're checking for fever to see if they're sick.
I mean, it might be for fever. Yeah, they're in these suits, and they have the SCBA, breathing cylinder. So they have a limited span of time to be in that. It's probably maximum an hour. It seems that it is a respiratory hazard because of the precautions they're taking.
This one is infected. They're sedating her. They're euthanizing her.
Oh.
Yeesh. Or that works.
If you ain't got ration cards, don't give me waste my time. I'm not interested in bartering for bullets.
You know, most people think that ammo is the most important barter item post-apocalypse, but honestly, I say that it's food or medical supplies, because there's lots of ways to make a wound, but not so many to heal them. So you have to eat, so you need food, but you also need ways to cure injuries and things like that.
Renewable bartering items, you're talking about food, things if you can grow it yourself, get something for it, and then grow more. For you, it's going to be way more valuable because you're not losing anything.
And this is something that you should start now, not after a disaster has occurred, because there's actually a learning curve to gardening,
Yes.
especially food gardening, vegetable gardening, and things like that. So it's something to learn and maybe begin a home garden now.
Hurry up, we're starving.
Keep your shirt on.
Now, rats are definitely on the menu in an apocalypse. They're going to be all over the place, and they have actually a pretty good nutritional value. They're 648 calories if it's a good-sized rat, 63 grams of protein, 33 grams of fat, so it's definitely an option.
And that's something that you want to start eating now as well.
Well,
This is a nail bomb.
and that is actually a thing. A nail bomb is something that you'll find relatively easy to make. It caused the casualties in the Boston Marathon bombing, and in wartime, artillery uses something called canister shot that fires basically a tin or brass canister with ball bearings and nails and things like that, and causes horrific injury.
All right, so he's upgrading here. I wonder if he's become an expert gunsmith at this point, an armorer. So this is something that happens in video games all the time.
He throws it 20 feet and he runs towards it.
He was in direct line of sight of that, so the shrapnel would have hit him as well as anyone else.
The kill radius of a hand grenade is about 5 yards, I think, 20 yards for casualty radius. So, I mean, he definitely would have become a casualty of his own. He's using a shotgun. Doesn't that also hit the good guys?
Shotgun spreads, but somehow he's missing the people that are within the blast area. Also, why are they down on the ground? Why can't they just get up on the bus and shoot the zombies from up there? I wonder how he survived 20 years.
And we also conquered the skies.
All right, we're on a train in Russia. The disaster is a nuclear war.
What do we see happening? Are people trying to get into shelter?
They're trying to go underground as the only safe place from the radiation. And it's interesting that a barrier actually will limit the radiation very significantly. I mean, just 0.4 inches of lead or 1 inch of steel actually drops the radiation you're exposed to by half. 2.4 inches of concrete, 3.6 inches of packed dirt would do it too. And what you want to do is you want to get 10 layers of that thickness, and that would get you down to 1/1024th of the original total radiation exposure.
The three factors for radiation are time, distance, and shielding. You just talked about shielding, the importance of that. Time, you limit your amount of time exposed, and then the distance. The further away you are from a blast, the better you are.
I was going to say that the good news about a nuclear blast, if there is good news, is that within 24 hours, the radiation level, the total radiation level is going to be less than 10% of the level at detonation. So the good news is that you can survive these things.
So he lived underground, but this is him just being up there. And he leaves the door open. Close the manhole. Okay,
Now he's
fine.
using a lighter.
So for any sort of dangerous area, especially if you're going down into a sewer, you don't know what kind of gases have been building up down there. To pull out a lighter and use that as an exploratory light source is extremely dangerous. So he could have just blown himself up.
Oh, look at that. Well, now we know what lighters are for. They get rid of cobwebs. You are ugly. Well, unless he has armored gloves, that's going to be a painful, dirty wound.
Right, he had his hand in there, so...
You think you could eat them, but radioactive meat, probably not too good for you. Open the door. Open the door. Look, close the door. Close the door. Wow, that is so ugly. Go. Oh.
He's dead.
Go.
Let's drag him out! What the hell?
This is going to sound rude, but I'm glad he's hurt. In video games, they often you fight tons of people or tons of monsters, and like you saw that it was gnawing on his leg and his arms. Then you just walk it off. Oh, I'm good, or I'm going to apply a bandage and I'm good. In real life, any of those can just put you out of commission. If your leg is gnawed on by a mutated monster, you're probably going to get a terrible infection or not be able to walk. It's going to be pretty serious, but let's see how quickly he recovers. Now, in here, I would believe that this would have an armory. It's more likely that this is going to have an armory than the last game where he's kind of setting up shop and just tinkering with things. Like, this is clearly a militaristic society. It would be difficult to maintain a society without having a rigid structure like that, knowing very clearly who's in charge and having a chain of command. He's a master gunsmith as well. A lot of emergency vehicles.
Apocalypse of unknown origin. Maybe a pandemic.
She's burning out. The knife must have nicked her kidney or something. She's turning septic.
Okay, stop. Okay, if that's where her kidney is, she's not from Earth. Human kidneys
Right.
are located just below the posterior rib cage on either side of your spine.
So often people just, oh yeah, she's going septic. It's like, oh, that's a visual diagnosis. How did you know that? But yeah, injuries in any situation are terrible. Gut injuries are awful. First aid is a skill that everybody should have.
She's going to die.
There are no more hospitals.
Oh, come on, no more
From an
hospitals.
emergency management perspective, everyone's kind of thrown into the fray, right? He's here, he's from the National Emergency Response Agency or whatever, which I think is supposed to be this game's equivalent of FEMA, and he probably is a low-level bureaucrat or something, and he's put in this situation, and now decisions of life or death are put into his hands, and obviously chaos is everywhere, so there's a lot of hard decisions to make for anyone.
I heard what he said. There's only room for two on that chopper.
Where are you going?
There's plenty of room on that helicopter. All right, so that's a tough decision to make. On the one hand, you think, okay, this guy's got some resources. They're going to an actual refugee camp. But I assume they're together, and he's basically abandoning her. I would probably fight to get on the helicopter, all of them. But, man, that's a tough decision.
Honestly, both of them are armed. They could get on the helicopter if they chose to. There's the story.
You don't know that where you're sending your loved one, you don't know that it's going to be better off or remain safer than where you are.
Freakers. What are
I guess
freakers?
we can't say zombies, I guess.
I think I got a better idea.
What are you thinking?
There's almost nothing as conspicuous as a pile of cut branches stacked in the middle of the road. He's doing that to camouflage his bike that lost its fuel line.
It'll be cannibalized by morning.
Careful!
All right, so that's a clear sign of danger that you want to stay away from.
Yes.
If you're going to proceed, if you're not going to try to drive around it, which you probably could drive through the woods with their bikes, but you would need to have security posted while somebody was working on clearing away.
Push!
Oh.
Surprise!
Okay. Hi, we're the Rippers. I'm Jack. Nice to meet you.
All
Good
right.
job. All right. These guys are badass.
So he probably did some fighting before this all happened.
Come on.
I'm surprised that these two survived because he just had a knife and I think the other guy was fighting with his fist. They had machetes and tomahawks. No guns. in this situation, so I don't know if they've ran out of all of that. But he's got a hatchet, the other guy had a machete, and if you're doing fights like this pretty regularly, you're going to want something more than just the knife that he had on.
How many Molotovs you got left?
Whoa. We just used the last one.
You got any shit to make more?
Yeah.
All right, so he doesn't have a Molotov cocktail, but he has stuff to make more. I wonder if he's keeping the combustible material in a separate container than the bottle and the cloth. If you've got the combustible material in the glass bottle, it's already made. You just put a cloth in it and light it. So like, I don't have any more Molotov cocktails, but I've got stuff to make them.
Now listen, you might think the Molotov cocktails are easy to make, but there are factors that are necessary to assure success. The fuel is meant to ignite when the bottle breaks. So you need to have a bottle with glass thin enough to definitely break on impact.
Right.
And not just roll away. The rag or wick that you mentioned has to be stuffed tightly into the bottleneck so you don't pour flammable fluid all over yourself as you're throwing the thing.
As you throw it, it leaves a trail back to you.
Alcohol burns well, but you need to use at least 100 proof, not that Malibu coconut rum stuff. You need more like Everclear. Gasoline burns strongly, but won't last long. You get a big fireball and then not much of anything. The best fuels are mixed with a thickener. So gasoline mixed with something like roofing tar creates almost a crude form of napalm that lasts longer and it sticks to you.
Sounds pleasant. Fortunately, these types of doomsday scenarios are not likely and possibly impossible, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be prepared for disasters that happen in our regular lives. We've all been through enough, especially over the last couple of years, to know to be prepared. For more videos like this, follow Gameology on YouTube and Facebook.
And if you'd like to learn more about medical preparedness for any disaster, find over 1,200 articles, podcasts, and videos at our award-winning website at doomandbloom.net.
I'll see you next time.